As the first light of dawn gently caresses the earth, a sacred stillness invites us to pause, reflect, and reconnect with something greater than ourselves. In the hurried rhythm of life, where days often blur into one another with little room for stillness, how usually do we take a moment to seek the presence of the one who gives meaning to it all? This morning, as the sun rises and paints the sky with hues of hope, I find myself longing for more than just another day of tasks and obligations. I long to step into the day with purpose, rooted in the presence of my Creator. Life pulls us in many directions: responsibilities, ambitions, and distractions, each competing for our attention. Yet deep within, there is a yearning, a quiet pull towards something eternal that transcends the world's noise. Could the peace we seek and the answers we long for await us in surrendering to surrender plans and even our fears to God? This is not just about beginning a day. It is about establishing a foundation where a higher power guides every thought, action, and decision. It is about setting our hearts and minds on what truly matters, anchoring ourselves in a love that renews with each sunrise. What would it look like if we placed God first, above all else, and allowed His presence to shape our day? The journey of seeking God at the start of the day is not just an act of faith. It is a declaration of trust, a recognition that we are not alone in this life. As we open our hearts and spirits to Him, there is a promise waiting to unfold, a promise of strength, guidance, and peace that surpasses all understanding. This is where the day begins, not in the rush of what must be done, but in the quiet assurance of who God is and who we are in Him. In this moment of quiet reflection, I invite you to join me in exploring what it means to seek God each morning, place Him above all else, and walk into the day with a heart full of trust and a soul anchored in His love. Together, let us embrace this sacred pause and discover the beauty of starting our day in the light of His presence. When I pause to consider the intricacy of life, the way each breath fills my lungs without effort, the rhythm of my heart that beats without command, I am reminded of the profound truth. Everything I have, everything I am, comes from God. He is not only the creator of the universe, but the sustainer of my very existence. In the busyness of life, it is so easy to forget this reality. How often do I take credit for my achievements or rely on my strength to face the challenges of the day? Yet, without Him, even my most significant efforts are fleeting, like sand slipping through my fingers. Today, I choose to surrender my plans to the one who holds the blueprint of my life. God, in His infinite wisdom, sees what I cannot. His purposes are far higher, and His plans are far more significant than anything I could imagine. It is a humbling realization, but also a comforting one. I don't have to carry the weight of figuring everything out alone. He is my guide, my provider, and my sustainer. Acknowledging this truth is the first step toward aligning my life with His perfect will. I find myself pulled in countless directions in a world constantly demanding my attention. There are ambitions to pursue, fears to overcome, and responsibilities to fulfill. Yet, amid all these demands, I recognize a more profound calling: to put God first. It's not always easy. My human nature wants to hold on to control and prioritize my comfort and desires. But today, I consciously declare, Lord, You come first. This decision is not merely about words, it's about action. It means seeking God's wisdom before making decisions, no matter how small they may seem. It means allowing His truth to shape my ambitions and letting His peace replace my fears. When I put God first, I am reminded that my life is not mine. It is His, and every moment is an opportunity to honor Him. Whether facing a significant life decision or simply navigating the ordinary moments of my day, I desire to live in a way that reflects His goodness and glory. The beauty of putting God first is that it transforms how I approach everything else. My worries no longer have the exact grip on me because I trust that He is in control. My plans no longer feel like a burden because I know He is directing my steps. Even my relationships take on new meaning as I strive to love others with the same selflessness and grace that God shows me. Placing him above all else is not a sacrifice but a privilege and joy. A deep peace comes from knowing I don't have to navigate life alone. God, in his boundless love and wisdom, offers guidance for every step I take. Yet, how often do I forget to seek him? How usually do I rush ahead with my plans, only to find myself lost or overwhelmed? Today, I am reminded of the importance of pausing, of taking a moment to invite God into every decision, every situation, and every uncertainty. Trusting God's plan requires faith, especially when his ways don't align with my expectations. Sometimes I've prayed for something only to be met with silence or an answer that I didn't anticipate. In those moments, it's tempting to take matters into my own hands, to assume that I know best. But Scripture reminds me, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3 verses 5-6. These words are not just a promise. They are a challenge to relinquishing control and relying on God's wisdom. Reflecting on this truth, I pray that God's timing is perfect for the aluminum Lowland edge, even when I cannot see it. I pray for the patience to wait for his answers and the courage to follow his lead, even when the path is unclear. Trusting his plan is not about having all the answers. It's about having confidence in the one who does. With each step of faith, I draw closer to him, and my dependence on his guidance grows stronger. Finally, I ask God to help me silence the world's noise so that I can hear his voice. The distractions around me are endless, but his voice is steady and true. The voice reminds me of his promises, love, and faithfulness. Today, I choose to listen. I prefer to trust, and I choose to walk in the light of his guidance, knowing he is leading me toward a future filled with hope and purpose. These sections build on the introduction by deepening the reflection on surrender, trust, and God's role as the ultimate guide. Each part connects seamlessly, encouraging the reader to pause, reflect, and embrace the transformative power of prioritizing God in their daily life. Gratitude is the lens through which I can see the hand of God in every aspect of my life. It is easy to become consumed by what I lack, the challenges, or the uncertainties that loom ahead. But when I pause to count my blessings, I am overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of God's goodness. From the smallest joys, like the warmth of sunlight on my face, to the most profound gifts, like the love of family and friends, I am reminded that every good thing comes from him. This morning, I choose to let gratitude shape my thoughts and actions. Instead of dwelling on my struggles, I will thank God for the strength he gives me to face them. When I encounter difficulties, I will see them not as obstacles but as opportunities to grow closer to him. Gratitude transforms how I view the world. It shifts my focus from what is temporary to what is eternal. It reminds me that God's blessings are not always material but often found in his presence, peace, and promises. In a life filled with distractions, I pray for the mindfulness to recognize the beauty of each moment. Whether it is a child's laughter, the kindness of a stranger, or the stillness of a quiet morning, I want my heart to be open to how God reveals himself to me. Gratitude is not just an act of thanksgiving. It is a posture of the soul that keeps me anchored in the assurance of God's unending love. Faith is not just believing in God. It is abiding in him, allowing his word to be the foundation of my life. There are moments when my faith feels strong, unshakable even. But there are also times when doubts creep in, when the world's weight threatens to pull me away from his truth. In these moments, I realize the importance of cultivating a relationship with God beyond fleeting emotions. I want my faith to be rooted deeply, nourished by his word, and strengthened through prayer. Spending time in God's presence is not always easy in a busy life. Countless distractions, work, responsibilities, and the demands of daily living compete for my attention. Yet, without this connection, my spirit feels restless and adrift. I commit to seeking him intentionally, opening his word and letting it guide, comfort, and challenge me. I also recognize that faith is not a solitary journey. God calls us into a community where we can encourage and uplift one another. I pray for the wisdom to surround myself with others who share my desire to grow in faith, who will walk alongside me and point me back to God when I stray. Together, we can build each other up, holding fast to the promises of Scripture and reminding one another of God's faithfulness. Reflecting on God's goodness in my life, I am reminded that His blessings are not meant to be kept to myself. They are intended to flow through me, touching the lives of others. Today, I pray not only for my own needs, but for the needs of those around me, family, friends, neighbors, and even strangers. I lift them to God, asking that He bless them, protect them, and draw them closer to His heart. To love others as God has loved me is a calling that requires humility, patience, and grace. It means forgiving those who wronged me, just as God forgives me. It means showing compassion to hurting people, offering a listening ear and a kind word. It means reflecting His light in a dark and divided world. I pray for the courage to step out of my comfort zone, to extend kindness even when it is inconvenient, and to be a source of hope for those who feel forgotten. Whether through a simple act of service, a heartfelt prayer, or a moment of encouragement, I want my life to point others to God. May my words be filled with grace, my actions driven by love, and my heart open to the needs of those around me. In praying for others, I am reminded that we are all part of God's family. Their joys become my joys, their burdens my burdens. Together, we can walk this faith journey, lifting one another and drawing closer to the one who loves us all. As I go through my day, I ask God to help me see others through His eyes and love them with the same unconditional love He shows me. These sections expand upon gratitude, faith, and service, offering readers a profoundly reflective and actionable perspective on living a life centered on God. The tone remains heartfelt, inviting readers to consider how these principles can transform their daily lives. The world is filled with subtle reminders of God's presence, yet how often do we miss them in the rush of life? Every sunrise promises new beginnings, each whisper of the wind a gentle reminder of His breath that gives life. Today, I want to be fully present, aware of the beauty surrounding me, and open to how God reveals Himself in the ordinary. I see God's artistry on display when I watch the golden hues of morning light filtering through the trees. In the laughter of a child, I hear echoes of His joy. In the kindness of a stranger, I glimpse His love. These moments may seem small, but they carry a profound message. God is with me, speaking through creation and the people around me. I pray for eyes that see beyond the surface and a heart that recognizes His hand every moment. When challenges come, I want to look for the lessons God is teaching me. When I feel weary, I want to find rest in His creation, letting the world's beauty remind me of His care. Even in the mundane tasks of daily life, I want to approach each moment with reverence, knowing that everything I do can be an act of worship if done with a heart aligned with Him. As the day comes to a close, I want to take a moment to reflect on how I have walked with God. Have my thoughts been fixed on Him? Have my words and actions reflected His love? These questions are not meant to burden me with guilt, but to draw me closer to Him, reminding me of His grace with each new day. Looking back, I pray to see His fingerprints in every moment. Perhaps it was a conversation that uplifted someone's spirit, a quiet nudge in my heart that guided me, or even a trial that tested my faith and brought me closer to Him. Reflection is not just about looking at what went right or wrong. It's about recognizing that God was with me through it all. As I prepare to rest, I lay my worries, fears, and unfinished tasks at His feet. There is peace in knowing that I don't have to carry these burdens alone. I thank Him for the strength to face the day and the assurance that He will sustain me tomorrow. My heart swells with gratitude for His faithfulness, mercy, and unending love. This act of reflection and thanksgiving helps me close the day with a sense of purpose and peace, knowing that I have sought to honor Him in all things. Worship is more than songs sung in church or prayers whispered in solitude. It is a way of life. The ongoing devotion of a heart seeks to glorify God in all things. Today, I ask God to help me embrace this truth, not just in the moments of joy, but also in the trials, the routines, and the unremarkable corners of my day. To live a life of worship means that every choice I make reflects my love and obedience to Him. It means prioritizing His will above my own, even when difficult. It means cultivating a heart that is quick to forgive, generous in love, and steadfast in faith. Worship is not confined to a place or a time. It is an attitude of the soul, a constant offering of myself to God. As I move through my day, my actions will be an extension of my adoration for Him. When I speak, let my words be kind and uplifting. When I work, let my efforts be a testimony to His grace. When I rest, let it be in the knowledge that He is the source of my peace. Worship transforms every moment into an opportunity to draw closer to Him, to be reminded of His goodness, and to reflect His love to the world around me. These sections invite readers to slow down and find God in every aspect of their day, from the beauty of creation to the quiet moments of reflection and worship. The narrative emphasizes the profound peace and purpose of living a life centered on God, offering practical encouragement and spiritual depth. Reflecting on my faith journey, one truth becomes increasingly clear. Surrendering to God's will is not a single act, but a daily practice. It requires a heart willing to let go of the need for control and trust entirely in His divine plan. Today, I ask God for the courage to release my grip on the future and to let go of the fears and uncertainties that threaten to cloud my trust in Him. In my humanity, I often wrestle with questions. What if things don't go how I hope? What if the path ahead is difficult? Yet, Scripture reminds me that God's plans are always for my good, plans to prosper me and not to harm me, to give me hope and a future. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. This promise does not mean the absence of challenges, but it assures me of God's presence and purpose in all circumstances. Surrendering my future to Him means embracing His timing, even when it feels delayed. It means trusting that closed doors are not rejections but redirections towards something far more significant than I could imagine. It means releasing my anxiety about tomorrow and choosing instead to focus on the steps He is calling me to take today. This trust is not passive. It is an active decision to walk in faith, to lean on His wisdom, and to rest in His peace. I also recognize that surrendering my future is not just about me, but about allowing God to use my life for His greater purpose. I pray that my dreams, desires, and ambitions align with His will, and that He may use them to bring glory to His name. If His plan leads me down paths I do not understand, I ask for the strength to follow with a willing heart. I know His ways are higher than mine, and His vision is eternal. This act of surrender requires me to release not only my plans, but also my fears. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of not measuring up, all pale compared to the security of knowing that God is in control. When I surrender these fears, I find freedom to live fully, love deeply, and trust completely. Finally, I ask God to help me cultivate patience while waiting for Him. The waiting seasons are often the hardest, but they are also where my faith is strengthened. In the silence, I learn to listen for His voice. In the stillness, I am reminded that He works all things for my good, even when I cannot see it. As I surrender my future to Him, I am filled with peace, knowing that I am held by the One who created me, the One who loves me, and the One who guides me toward His perfect plan. My future is not uncertain. It is secure in His hands. And so, I step forward into each day with confidence, knowing that He goes before me, walks beside me, and holds me in the palm of His hand. This final section ties together the themes of trust, faith, and surrender, offering a profoundly reflective and hopeful conclusion. It encourages readers to release their anxieties about the future and rest assured of God's love and guidance. The message is practical and spiritual, inspiring a lifestyle of faith-filled surrender.